This is a Distillery Channel network production, bringing you the distillerychannel.com.
Welcome to another edition of Distilleries, Breweries, and Wineries of the World. I'm Michael Stewart, America's #1 wino, and my co-host this week are Randy Weckerly, the CEO of the Distillery Channel, and Alan Fitzgerald, the president of the Wisconsin Winery Association. Gentlemen, great to have you back.
Well, Uncle Mike, we've got a guy. How often do we get somebody that comes in and brings us 6 bottles of wine?
You can't
there you
beat
go.
that, huh?
It's such a deal.
It's a long show.
Well, not only that, they're award-winning.
Award-winning?
National award-winning.
We will get to that.
Labels and gold medals.
That's right. Hey, this is where we talk about the world's age-old pastime, and that is drinking. Want to remind you, check out our latest TV shows, radio shows, articles, blogs, specials, everything's at thedistillerychannel.com. Of course, you can go to Facebook and Twitter and iTunes and Google Play and all that other stuff. This week's featured destination, we're heading to Wisconsin, and particularly Madison, where our special guest is from. We've got a special interview with Alan Fitzgerald. I'm going to call you Fitz.
Please do.
He's the president of the Wisconsin Winery Association, and also is our guest for our featured winery. He owns the Fisher King Winery in Corona, Wisconsin. Great to have you here. We've got some, which will feature all of us.
All of us. And great, it provides a great platform for the associations and the coalition in Wisconsin of the brewery, winery, and distilleries. Hence why Fitz is here as the president of the Wisconsin Winery Association, right?
That's absolutely correct.
And how long have you been doing that, Fitz?
Well, I've been the president for just a couple years. It's a rotating position.
Yeah.
But I've been on the board since around 2012.
Yeah. Well, it is amazing. And with us, what we're trying to do is give them the platform.
Right.
So that there's a lot of legislation, impact, a lot of different ways for wineries, distilleries, and breweries. There's a big mystery in it. But every month, we're going to be able to try to unpack that. And we begin it now with having Fitz show up and try to get that information to the people on their Facebook.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
We'll get into it. Welcome back to Distilleries, Breweries, and Wineries of the World. I'm Michael Stewart, America's #1 wino, and I'm joined this week with Randy Weckerly, CEO of the Distillery Channel, and we've got a special guest, Alan Fitzgerald. He's a president of the Wisconsin Winery Association, and Fitz, I'll call you Fitz.
Please do.
Great to have you. Great to have you with us.
I'm very happy to be here.
And Randy, you've got some questions about the laws and things that are going on and what the Winery Association does.
Yeah, one of the foremost things you have to know about Fitz is that he does it from the ground up. I mean, he has his own winery that has over 40,000 visitors every year, which is an amazing number, 6,000 Facebook followers.
Wow.
And award-winning wines. And he does it in reading his website, and you can tell us a little bit about that, and then why it's important for wineries to join your organization, because there's a lot to learn, and you did it from the ground up. Right?
Yes, I did. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, we opened our winery originally back in 2011, and we hit, from 0 to 60 in just a few years.
Yeah. So you have to learn how, and in your, you talked a little bit about California wines and the cabs that, that brought in, and then your Fisher King winery is award-winning. And how do you, what made you, what took you to that part? And then we'll get into the implications of what you need to know.
Okay, so long before I opened up a commercial winery and I was a commercial winemaker, I worked in corporate America for more than 35 years, but I made wine at home. That's how a lot of people start. Oh, yeah, 50 gallons at a time in my basement.
Really?
Yeah, my wife was like, well, I guess maybe you better open a winery soon, yeah. But, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but.
Being part and the leader in the organization that you're the head of, there's a legislation impact that affects the small craft wineries, breweries, and berries to the point where you formed a coalition in the state of Wisconsin, correct? Back in June.
Yeah, and that was really out of necessity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlap between the breweries, the distilleries, and the wineries. We're kindred spirits. We're dealing with a lot of the same similar issues. There are some differences, but we have an awful lot of commonality. And one of the things that we all face is laws on the books, our Section 125 alcohol code, which is all grounded in post-prohibition law.
I was just going to say, Fitz, it sounds like this is back to the Prohibition days.
It is, and back then, when finally Prohibition was lifted, there were all these big concerns about monopolization of this, like a person going from the source to the distributor to the retailer, from stem to stern, and owning a monopoly and keeping, locking people out of it, and, corruption being rampant.
Right.
So that was then.
Well, you could get the giant, the Budweisers or whatever. I mean, the huge conglomerates to shut down everybody.
Right. And so some of those laws that are in that Section 125 were put in there, that statutory language, to make sure that didn't happen. However, that was then. That was like the 30s, the 40s.
Right.
I mean, fast forward to the present, there's been an awful lot of time that's taken place and a lot of changing things going on in the marketplace. And right now, some of the legislative initiatives and the way the law is written now is very limiting for small craft breweries, wineries, and distilleries. And some of the proposed legislation and legislative initiatives that have been happening behind closed doors at the Capitol has a potential impact of just devastating our industry.
I thought we had a capitalist society.
I thought so too.
Where have you been? Where have you been living?
What are they doing to hinder wines? Because a winery to me should be able to just, if you've got a local winery, go to your local grocery stores or your local restaurants and say, hey, would you, how about you use my wines, et cetera, or add them, to your list or whatever. And you're talking about legislation that could stifle that?
Right. Well, there was some proposed things that came into the light of day that was not meant to be in the light of day, and it got out there. And so there was a giant upwelling of anger and disbelief and whatnot. And these were negotiated type proposed legislative laws that were kind of negotiated behind closed doors by certain, special interest groups and certain legislators. And I'm not going to, say who and point to people. Right. But these were definitely things going on sort of in the back room. And so there was this one piece of proposed legislation very recently that would have potentially created a situation where wineries, breweries, and distilleries in the state could no longer sell their product out their front door in retail. The only way that they could sell that product would be through a distributor. And that would have devastated our small business industry.
Yeah.
What other state do you go to where you go into a winery and you can't buy wine there?
Right.
And hence, Michael, this is the reason that we decided to do what we're doing with the magazine.
Right. Because we're going to be the voice.
We're the voice and the platform.
Right.
And we want to do it honorably,
right.
And we want to be an advocate for the small business person because joining all three of these organizations, the Distillers Guild, the president of Distillers Guild, sent out an email to everybody there. And I realized after thinking about it for about 3 weeks, because we have the power of the microphone, we have your 15 years behind the microphone, and the ability to talk and distribute this information. At least he has 6,000 Facebook followers. If we put out an appropriate story on our website that, like this show, we can link to that show. We can put it in our magazine. We're going to have a magazine that links into this conversation. And it goes to the person that 40,000 people last year came to his location. And they might not even know that
this stuff is going on.
Problem.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't. And what are they going to charge?
Well, and a show like ours has the power to get out to. We can get this to all the legislators too.
Yeah,
which are the people that really matter.
And I hope it brings a lot of zest to what you're doing.
Get some attention out there.
Right. Well, there's this 3-tier system in place, and that's the post-prohibition stuff.
Right.
And that's what some of the other special interests that have been around longer. And
sounds like Al Capone is still alive.
That's why we're doing the Al Capone thing. Because I believe if you took Al Capone and put him in one column.
Yeah.
And you put the thing that they're up against in the other column, who was the guy that regulated distribution and prohibition? Who was going to be the distributor? Who's going to collect the money?
Al Capone, man.
Okay, now let's just put the blank cover over the top and do the T squared who's what. That's the same thing.
He just shot everybody.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. Hopefully we won't have to come to that.
Right. But, the problem with it is that, the argument has been made that wineries are having a competitive advantage over other entities like taverns and whatnot out there because we're the manufacturer, and so then we're selling it, and which is like so unbelievably, off the mark. I mean, we've been in business for 6 years now, and we're just turning profitable.
Right.
And the reason that is because our manufacturing costs us so much.
Exactly.
It's so expensive, and I have huge inventory costs and huge capital costs and operating costs. If you're just a retailer, I'm not saying it to diminish it, but you don't have manufacturing, and the only way I can manufacture is to have retail sales to support that. Otherwise, I can't support it, and no small winery will or brewery or distillery will be able to stay in business if they can't sell their product retail.
How many employees do you have?
9.
And how many did you have the day you started?
1.
There you go. So in the state of Wisconsin, you have 8 families that are affected by what you've done. You've grown your business. They're paying taxes. They're making money, and it grows.
Right, and we bring visitors into our local economy. I now know that for every dollar that gets spent on average in a Wisconsin tasting room, a winery, $2.50 approximately gets spent in the local economy. Mm-hmm. So we're bringing business into our local communities. The people around the area come to our winery and enjoy it, just like they like to go to small breweries.
Right. They go to a local restaurant. They do they go to shops.
Right. There's a lot of statistics on the economic impact that the wineries have in Wisconsin.
And that's why we looked at our statistics, because we're to play golf. And as we said it before, and we'll say it again, Wisconsin's become the #1 golf destination in the world. And because people can only play golf half the day, they want to find a place to sip, to eat, to sleep. Rinse, repeat, do it again. And we'll be right back with more with Fitz and about what's going on in the wineries of Wisconsin.